What's going on, guys? I'm about to record a little cash game, home game tonight here at my friend's, Brent's. We usually do 25, 50 cent. Sometimes single straddle, double straddle. Usually buying for around 50, 60, $70. So not too deep in this game, but obviously throughout the game we add on. But yeah, I'm about to get in there and I'm excited to be back filming because I haven't recorded in a while, but here we go. Now, in this first hand, we looked on an ace-8 offsuit in the big blind, and we see a raise from middle position, which is my buddy Mitch, to 175. And we see the small blind call, and I decided to call with an ace because these kids play pretty wild, and sometimes an ace might just be good on the flop, but we stick it in, and then on a flop of the 5 of spades, 6 of diamonds, and 7 of diamonds, we decide on a check after it is checked to us from the small blind, and the middle position player bets 250, and after the small blind folds, I think this flop favors my range much more than his, and I also have the 8 of diamonds, so I block flopping the nuts. So that's a hand I could potentially have with 8-9, and I decided to go with a check raise to $7, and he decides to make the call. But my friend actually says something pretty funny here during the hand.
250, 7. We're gonna have to start paying to see the videos. 450 more to call.
Thanks for that comment, Jack. I think so too, though. Yeah, I'm giving away way too much, and I'm gonna have to set up a subscription for people that are in Lex, though. But on the turn of the 3 of diamonds now, I decide to continue the story that I have a strong hand. I mean, I have all the flushes, especially here, and I bet 14. Probably a little too big, but I'm bluffing, so I want to get the job done without facing a tough decision on the river. And he ultimately decides on a fold. So with some range advantage and the nut blocker, I get it done. In this next hand, we look down at Queen Jack offsuit on the button, and the straddle is live for this hand, and we see 2 callers in front of us, so we decide to come along as well, and the small blind and big blind complete, and the straddle checks now to a flop of Queen King 4 rainbow. The small blind checks, and action checks around to me actually, where I decide to throw out a bet of $2 into this $8 pot, and that probably wasn't my greatest decision because the small blind raises me to 7. So I'm definitely ahead of a lot of his draws that he has, like Jack 10 or maybe a weaker queen, but all this given, I could get him to slow down on the turn with a call. So I decided to get sticky with my queen and make the call for $5 more. Now this brings us to the turn of the 5 of hearts, and with the small blind first to act, he decides to bet $10, and he actually only has about $22 left behind this bet, and I'm really debating between a fold or a jam. And yeah, he puts me in a bit of a pickle here, but here's some audio. I actually describe what I'm thinking and trying to get some information out of him that will help me.
You might make my decision if you show me the card.
And I was not able to get any further information out of him as to help me make my decision easier, but I sometimes like doing this and seeing what people do or how they react, but I mean, it's just not a good play, so I ultimately throw it away, and he decides to show me the bluff of 7 deuce of hearts. But we played it out, and he would have hit his flush, but result oriented, a bad fold, but I just like it because I'm usually always losing to a king. In this next hand, there's an open to 375 from the under the gun, and middle position and cutoff both make the call for 375. And I looked down at pocket jacks in the small blind, and I decided to raise to 16. I think this is a pretty standard size after an early raise and a bunch of calls, but everyone actually calls, so we go 4 ways. Actually, big blind folds, and we go 4 ways to a flop of deuce, king, 9. And on this type of flop, I decide to start with a check because I'm not really sure what I'd be getting value from other than maybe some spade draws, which they definitely can have, but there's very few straight draw availabilities, and a king is always just calling me here, so I'd rather just check call from the little blind, but it actually checks around on this flop, so we go to a turn of a king of hearts. And seeing this card is actually so great. I love this card. Now I have 2 pair, obviously, but it makes it less likely someone has a king. But still with this, I'm going to be check calling, and I decided to check before the middle position player decides to jam for 925 total. The cutoff folds, and I just flat to hopefully keep the +1 in, and he decides to call as well for this 925 bet. So I'm not sure if I should be raising that, but I'm only getting called bet better. But either way, we go to a river of a queen of diamonds, and whatever. I decide to take my jacks to showdown, and so we check it down, and I win with jacks. So I definitely could have played it more aggressively, but I like the outcome. In this next hand, when the straddle is live from under the gun, we look down at 7-4 of hearts on the button, and I think this hand is just good enough to raise, to be honest, when it folds to me. So I raise to $4, and small blind folds, the big blind calls, and the straddle completes. So we go to a flop 3 ways, and we see the board of 6-6-9. And this board could hit them, but the big blind checks, and the straddle decides to lead for 250. And I could easily just fold here, but he's really not representing a lot. I mean, I guess a 6 would bet here to get value from an overpair, but like I would do with all my overpairs and overcards, I just decided to flat the 250 and keep him bluffing on the turn. And with the 250 bet, the big blind also calls, so he could also have some draws like 7-8, or could have connected with the 9, but we both call, and we go to the turn of the deuce of clubs. So this really doesn't change much, and when the action checks to me, I decided to take a stab at it for $10. So just about half pot, and the big blind decides to fold, and the straddle calls for the 10. So we're going heads up to a river, which is the king of diamonds, and I actually love this card because I could have been doing that with a lot of overcards, ace king, king queen, king jack, any of those that just float the flop and then decide to bet the turn and get him off of smaller pocket pair hands that he was getting sticky with. And I decided to ask him for a count of his stack because I want it to seem like value. So I decided to bet $20, just under half pot once again, because I want it to look like I'm going for value with hitting this king, because this kills me having a lot of king jack, king queen, ace king type hands. So I want it to seem like that I hit this king. And Now we'll just go into my friend's head and hear what he's thinking.
We'll talk about this hand later. Imagine it takes all this time, he's got pocket sixes. That was so hard to play. I'm not folding anything there.
In this next hand, we look down at ace of spades, queen of diamonds, and under the gun +1. We see an open from under the gun to $5, and we decide to 3-bet this hand to a sizing of $12. And it folds back around to Brent, who's in under the gun, and he makes the call. So we go to a flop heads up to king, ace, deuce, 2 spades. Now having an ace of spades reduces his likelihood that he has on a flush draw, so I decided to down bet, as I have all the aces and kings regardless, and I decided to bet $10 into this pot, and he makes the call. Now off to a pretty safe looking turn in the deuce of diamonds. I decide to put him all in, which is for definitely under pot. I don't remember the exact amount, but it was about 16. No, it was around like $24. And with that, he decides to make the fold. So we take down a pretty easy pot with ace queen. In this next hand, I started at the turn, and we actually flopped a set with pocket threes. So that's why it's a little late. I didn't expect to flop, and I didn't want to make it obvious on the flop to start recording. But we see a flop of 7, queen, 3, and turns a deuce. But it was raised pre to 175, so the flop got checked to the pre-flop aggressor, and he decided to c-bet for $12 into 3 people. And I decided to make the call to go to the river, which is an inconsequential 8 of diamonds. And here I honestly decided to lead out and jam because he really only has about 20 behind. That's just under a pot size bet, and I don't want him to check back a queen with a weak kicker that I could have gotten value from. And he's definitely the type of player that would do that because he's rather tight. Sorry, Sean, but I just decided to open jam with my flop set, and regardless, most missed draws would have checked back this river, but I also could have let missed heart draws bluff, but I decided to lead, and now we'll go inside the head of Sean and hear what he is thinking about this hand.
You couldn't just bring a heart on the river. That determines like an 8. Like his pocket 8 is good. That weren't good anytime before that. Sick, man. Oh. I guess I'll go home. That's all. Calls.
As you saw, he decided to make the call, and a little bit of a cooler. Shows king queen, so we definitely could have gotten it in on the turn, but regardless, we'll take it down. Just got done with the session. As you saw, there was a few hands played, not too many, but definitely a lot of action to be had with my friends here. And I don't even have to go far. Like, I drove like 3 minutes to come play, and I made a quick 57. Playing 25-50, not bad. But yeah, I mean, I'll post this little trial run, see what people think of home games. I mean, yeah, it's nothing, no crazy stakes, but whatever. I'll just post my hands that I play and see what you guys like. But thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think about how I played some of those, and anything else you guys, if you like the video. Thanks, peace.